Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you to today's webinar. DocLink takes your business paperless any way and anywhere. My name is Whitney Mahon, and I'm an account executive here at FMT Consultants, and I'm joined by two wonderful individuals, Perry Lynn Silkwood and Gabriela Morales from Altec. Before we dive in, for those of you who aren't familiar with FMT, I'd like to take a few moments to give you a brief introduction of our company. Here at FMT, we have successfully completed over 1,000 projects, and we've been in business since 1995 and recently celebrated our 20th year anniversary. We are Southern California's leading provider of Microsoft integrated solutions and have over 230 clients in both the United States and Canada. Our team has significantly grown over the years with currently close to 60 team members, both in Northern San Diego as well as Los Angeles. At FMT, we pride ourselves on our 5 core values: integrity, service excellence, collaboration, innovation, and passion. But why choose FMT? With a combination of talent, experience, and methodology, we are fully dedicated to the success of your company. We offer a wide array of services pertaining to ERP, CRM, SharePoint, BI, and Office 365. In addition to having extremely experienced consultants, we also have a dedicated help desk that offer ongoing training and support after projects are completed. So not only do we pride ourselves on our product expertise, but we have won a handful of awards, including Best Places to Work, as well as multiple small business awards. The next slide just shows a few of the clients that we get the privilege to work with on a daily basis, and of course, we hope to one day add your company to the list. Now I'm going to hand it over to Perry Lynn, but before I do, if at any time during the presentation you have any questions, feel free to type them into the comment box. We will be monitoring it during the entire presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney. Hello, everyone. This is Perry Lynn, and I'm very, very excited to get this opportunity to showcase DocLink for you today. So let's talk for just a moment on how you store your documents today. I'm sure that most of you are probably storing them in filing cabinets. That's pretty traditional. We get a disbursement packet that's been complete, and it gets filed away by date or by vendor. Some of you, however, may have actually already made the leap and gone paperless by developing a network file share. And that's really nice as well because you're already starting to recognize some of the business benefits of going paperless. But what we find in the network file share is that it's still very challenging to actually get documents out of the network file share based on naming conventions. And there's also a need to be able to facilitate the upfront accounts payable invoice approval process. So there's certainly a lot of things that we can do by utilizing software in order to facilitate that whole accounts payable invoice approval process, and then even extend it further into a full enterprise-wide solution. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today: how to go paperless in your organization. The focus will be on accounting, and then during the presentation, I'll help you extend that vision into how you can bring it to other areas as well. But let's take a quick look at what we call our product stack. So DocLink is a very, very rich application. It is scalable in that you have an opportunity to decide as a business, where do you want to get started with your paperless vision? If it's just simply storing documents in a centralized repository, we can certainly help out with that. And then in that case, we'd be looking at what kinds of documents are you interested in storing, and then how are those documents produced? And so you'll notice here across the bottom of the slide, we're talking about all sorts of different methodologies to capture documents. Actually means that we can capture it right from your ERP or other line of business application, but you can bring in documents from email and those that are faxed in. If you get hard copy documents, those can be scanned in. For some companies, documents will be produced, some handwriting information will be put on it, and we want to bring that back into the organization. So things like a modified picking sheet is generally a good example there. Those can be brought in, facilitating with a barcode. We can import images in from many different applications, and there's also the possibility of looking at OCR, which is optical character recognition, and really that's about giving automatic meaning to the documents by kind of scraping that image and doing some algorithms in the background. Now, once we've captured documents, then we want to provide a very easy mechanism for you to be able to access them. So here in the access side of things, you have many different ways that you can access documents, and we'll be showing you these different elements. You can do search and retrieval of documents right from within DocLink. You can do search and retrieval of documents right from within the windows in your ERP application. So that's really important because depending on who the user is, you want to provide different ways that they can actually access documents. If your community, so I'm talking about your internal user community, is a mobile workforce, then there is a mobile application that can be utilized to access documents, approve documents like an invoice and things of that nature. Plus there's also a web interface, and this really has IT implications because it's a zero footprint, and that's usually ideal rather for our IT friends. All right. So we've covered the first concept, capturing documents. Second concept is providing an easy way to access documents. Now let's look at the concept of processing documents. So here, what we want to be able to do, and I'm talking really about this AP package as a metaphor for even other business processes, right? If we have an AP invoice coming into the organization, we want to be able to make it electronic, number one, and we want to put it through some kind of approval process. So when I start talking about an approval process, I'm really talking about a workflow, passing a document from one employee to another for the purposes of some kind of note, or for the purposes of approval, or it could even be coding. And once that invoice has gone through that process, then the integration that we enjoy with the ERP allows us to push that data to update transactions, right? And that's really critical because as you start thinking about how you're doing that today manually and the time it takes, this whole process can really be streamlined and then drive productivity and allow for you to grow without adding headcount, go after earning some more early paid discounts because the process is streamlined, or even avoiding late fees. And we'll go into that as we go through the presentation as well. Now here under process, we have a couple other tools that we'll be talking about today. One is called a Smart Form Toolkit. So if today you are producing documents in Excel, right, so things like a requisition, things like an expense report, or I hear many, many companies bringing in a CSV file from the bank, right, and then that CSV file needs to be kind of like chopped up, or you might even be getting a paper statement and physically cutting it up and sending it out to approvers for reconciliation. The Smart Form Toolkit is a toolkit that enables us to streamline all of those processes and eliminate any of those Excel-based templates. So we can talk about that. And Data Manager is all about rules-based validation. So if we want to grab a document, and let's say by GL account code information and maybe dollar amount, we want to drive it through a very specific approval process, then that allows for us to do that as well. And then lastly, the DocLink family of products has a tool by which you can send documents outside of the organization. I think the big win there is that not only can you maybe send one document, let's consider an AR invoice going out to a customer for payment, right? But you have the ability to join that AR invoice up with supporting documentation. So in the world of accounts receivable where customers are paying, they may want to see the signed delivery receipt. They may want to see, their actual customer PO. They want to see, maybe it's just terms and conditions. So also my challenge here is to have you think very, very broadly. I took a look at all the different folks that are here on the line with us today in your titles, so it sounds like we have more on the management side. So all of these concepts can be really repurposed for other things as well, okay? All right, so what I'd like to do next is to start looking at document management through the eyes of various team members. And we're going to start with the AP clerks, and then we're going to go up through accounting management. And at each one of these different steps, I want to try and focus on those issues that those team members are faced with, and then how we can actually utilize the application in order to solve those particular business issues. Okay? So before I begin, are there any questions that have come up so far? And maybe Gabby or Whitney, any thoughts before we jump into this next section? All right, so that sounds like a no. So let's go ahead and start looking at the key concerns for the AP clerk. And so for all the attendees, get ready, because I want to actually do a quick poll. And I'd be curious to know, from your perspective, which one of these different issues are most prolific in your particular company. And let's see if we can do any kind of like on-the-fly trend analysis. All right, so AP clerk, right? What's going on in their world, and what are the troubles or issues that they're generally experiencing, right? So self-service document access. What we really mean here is that employees are likely calling them, right, because they don't remember approving something, and they want a copy of the invoice, which causes the AP clerk to run off to a filing cabinet, grab that document, make a copy, or scan it in and email it out, right? So it's very time-consuming. So with DocLink, they would easily be able to give access to the employee, all driven by security, and that would get remedied. Approvals. When I talk about approvals, I'm really talking about invoices going through an approval process. Generally, that means that the paper is actually flowing through the organization. I see a lot of instances where a physical rubber stamp is applied to the paper, and we're gathering data. And if something is lost, then it's causing a lot of search flurries, right? Filing is a big issue. Especially when we talk about a manual AP invoice process, it seems like there's a lot of kind of double data entry, sometimes triple data entry, applying handwriting information to the form. Sometimes people are summarizing that into some kind of cover sheet or Excel worksheet, and ultimately that is being vouchered in the system. All right, so quick chat here. I would love for you to all let us know, and let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let us know which one of these issues are you experiencing here on the phone, right? Which ones are most problematic? It might be self-service access. It might be approvals. It might be filing, or it might be data entry, or it might be that, what really is going on is all of these issues are equally troubling for you. So chat back to Gabby and Whitney, and let's see if we can do some kind of on-the-fly trend analysis. So I'll give you a moment to do that. All right. So Gabby, are we getting any responses? I know that it was like barely a second to give people a chance to chat through, but.
Marilyn, we do have timely approvals, which I suspect you hear a lot, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think approvals is probably one of the number ones, probably closely followed by paper filing, right? The amount of time it takes to file documents, pull them out of filing cabinets, refile. We can even get into auditing at this point in time, that preparing and supporting auditors, are a big problem in a paper world. But when you've gone paperless with an application such as DocLink, then even audits really become much easier. And we'll be talking about that later on as well. All right, so let's continue on. So now we're going to start talking. Yes, tell me.
Sorry to interrupt. Judy actually put in a comment, research for auditors.
Perfect. Yeah, so thank you, Judy, and thank you, Whitney, for letting us know, and I love having the webinars very interactive, because I bet you what you're thinking, another person on the phone might be thinking as well, so it really helps everyone get a little bit of validation here. But audit is huge. I'm going to talk more about audit when we get to the perspective of the CFO, but you're right. One of my clients, they're actually a publishing company back east, and their sole goal in implementing DocLink was to actually scan and index. So index means just simply give meaning, right, to their disbursement package, because they had suffered a really painful audit. It was so painful that they were fined a 6-digit fee for not being able to provide the right documentation. So their first goal was to scan and disbursement packets and have those now available from a historical perspective. And then the next phase of their project was to say, okay, now we are ready to implement an AP solution from the moment the invoice arrives in all the way through approvals, the vouchering process, capturing the payment method electronically, and then having that complete packet. So Judy, it sounds like we might have a reason to chat further. All right, anything else before we continue on?
That's it for now.
We're good.
All right, so let's kind of take a look at what the solution potentially can look like. And also, I wouldn't mind just offering up for everyone. Today's presentation is really about trying to help you understand some of the issues of doing business manually. And what I'd like to offer is that if any of these concepts kind of resonate with you, let's call Whitney, right? Or you can call us as well, and we'll all work together. And we can do kind of a 1-hour business process review, really talking about what's going on with your business and how DocLink might be able to help. And then we can gear up for a live product demonstration. So I'll make that offer many times today, and I'd love for you all to take advantage of it. All right, so here's the big concept here, right? How can you help me give everyone access to documents that they need? So this is all about, that filing routine. The goal here is that any employee, based on their security rights, right, that's the fundamental issue there, can have access to documents that you've given them access to. And this will eliminate everyone calling into AP and consuming AP's time with doing those search and retrieval. We find that there is a significant ROI, return on investment, right, in the time spent filing, versus actually having documents electronic. So what does it look like? Here we go. The screen that you're seeing on the screen is the DocLink user interface. And let me see if my mouse is here. There we go. We call it the DocLink Smart Client. All right. So let's start over here on this column, and I'll show you what you're seeing, and then we'll talk about how it works. If you are a multi-company environment, right, that's completely fine. Your companies would be indicated right here in that little box. My mouse is not very sensitive today. There we go. See? And then down below, we have all the document types that would have been set up for you as an organization. Now, a little note here, I'm actually signed in as the administrator because I want to have a lot of flexibility in showing you many different things. This list would only show the documents that you as an end user have been given rights to view. Okay, so you may not see everything. The way I like to think about it is what happens if you are having, you wanted to store your HR documents in there, right? HR would have access, and maybe employees based on, security rights of the employee. Maybe you have operational documents that you want to be stored in the central library. That's okay as well. Anything is possible here. It's really just trying to understand where you're finding the most paper-based pain and then providing that solution. Okay, so here what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, listen, I want to see all documents related to this invoice, right? I may even want to select multiple document types. And in this query, you see as we move over to the right-hand side, I'm saying, I do want to see these documents, but I only want to see the documents linked with PO number 34. Okay, and I have a choice. I can double hit enter, or I can move my mouse up to the search area here, and then it's going to give me my return set. Now, there's some really lovely drill down and drill around functionality. So if I click here with my PO number, it's going to actually give me all the documents that relate to it. Okay, so you can see here that really with the most minimal amount of keystrokes, I have this really powerful access to documents. You can even send them from email right here once you have them in the window, so that's really nice as well. And it's really about driving down, all the time that's spent at filing cabinets today. And this is across the organization because it's not just AP, right? Approving managers would be able to have access to documents. Various employees could have access to documents. You get to define what that looks like. Okay? All right. So that's a little bit about accessing documents. Now let's talk a little bit about approvals. Right? And so what we're talking about here is an invoice comes in, and generally we're routing that invoice for approvals, and it's coming back to AP for vouchering. So the goal here is that we want to provide a really simple mechanism for you to get your invoice approvals done faster. The business benefit is early pay discounts, avoiding late fees, and I'm sure you could even dream up even more financial implications of a paper-based process. So these are just some options. Let's start over here with the mobile application. Again, if your user community is mobile, right, there is a true mobile app by which they could sign on and approve or reject or make a note about that particular invoice in their workflow. Right? As an alternative, some people want a really, really even more simple way of doing approvals. So on the right-hand side here, you could actually just have an email sent out to the approving manager or their support staff. Right? You see that the invoice is attached here. There's some nice data about this invoice just to raise visibility and control. And then notice these links here at the bottom, approve and deny. So right within that email, the approving manager can click on the link, and it's either approving or denying that particular invoice, and off it goes to the next status in workflow. Generally, it's back to AP, but it may be that you've got some rules, that would compel it to a different approving manager if that's what was necessary. And then we talked a little bit about the web client as well, but the goal here is that organizations, while AP is somewhat similar in the basic process of an invoice coming through and getting approvals and being vouchered, companies need a lot of agility in terms of how they access documents. So there's also a web client. So this is really just showing you a little sample of the web client. Same concept, user can sign in, they can view all the documents that have been sent to them for approval. If you notice right here, we've got the same concept of approve a document, deny a document, and this little icon right here is standing for notes, and then we can even see some of the index values about this document, right? So it's really just all about easy access, providing, a streamlined process for people to do the right thing quickly. All right, next kind of element here in the AP world is about minimizing data entry. So remember, we talked about an invoice coming in, right? And in the paper world, it might get an approval stamp that is a rubber stamp with ink and whatnot. What we want to do is we want to be able to capture data in a meaningful way so that we don't have to keep re-entering data, but we repurpose the data. And that way, you really have a very powerful way of being able to streamline that process further and eliminate data entry, which is really going to drive growth initiatives, right? To grow without adding headcount. So let's take a look at the concept, right? What you're seeing here is an invoice that has been sent in workflow. And we have, I'll just introduce you to the screen here. In the middle, basically, we've got a picture of our invoice. All right, let's slide your eyes over on the right-hand side. This is called our GL distribution stamp. It allows for either AP or the approving manager or a combination to capture values about this particular invoice. And then ultimately, this is going to be imported, and I'll just having mouse issues. There we go. Sorry about that. We're going to be able to import this transaction into your ERP application, right, into the financial accounting application. So this is very, very powerful. There are a lot of tips and tricks that you can utilize here. This is deeply integrated with the ERP, so it's able to look at vendor name information that can populate vendor number information. If you happen to be using vendor defaults, right, that can populate GL account codes. There's a variety of templates so that if you're getting an invoice over and over and over and you don't want to have to retype data, there's a template that will kind of pre-populate data as well. Again, the goal here is to minimize any kind of data entry that you're doing right now today and then be able to push that into the ERP. Just a notice here that you can actually do a one-by-one entry into the ERP, or you can take a collection of invoices and import them into the table. So there's some real power there that can be utilized. All right, so I know I'm throwing a lot of functionality at you, but I think it's quite relevant because it really does address very specific business issues in a paper-based world. So Gabby and Whitney, any questions that have come up that we might need to address? Next, I'm going to take a look at accounts receivable and talk a little bit how we can help out in the AR world.
No questions yet, but feel free.
Okay, got it. So if anyone has questions, just feel free to tap them in chat. Type there. We had a combination of words there. Type them into the chat area, and then we can also get those addressed. All right, so AR. Let's kind of visit the AR world, right? What's going on here? So curious to know here as well, how many people, and this is really a yes-no, right? How many people are trying to streamline the receivables process? And the thing here is that if you are right now today printing out invoices, right, going to the filing cabinet, finding accompanying documents that need to be sent out with it, and then compiling those all together and sending it out manually, then there's lots we can do to help in that arena. So let me know if AR is an area of concern. Again, this software is modular. So what we have going on for AR is not mandatory, but it simply can be purchased if that's an area of concern. All right, let's see what this actually looks like and what we're trying to do here. So the goal is to be able to automate your invoice and supporting documents delivery, right? And we call them backup. There's all sorts of different names that you might utilize for these backup documents. But what happens is that because of the integration, we're able to capture the AR invoice as it's virtually printed, right? So it's not going to a physical printer, it's going into DocLink. And then there's a routine that basically looks for if there are other documents that relate to that AR invoice, and then based on the email address that's captured, it gets sent out automatically based on the timing that you've decided as a company. So an email can be sent out to the customer. It can have, a templated, information, and then you'll notice that attached is that actual invoice, right? But you can join it up with other supporting documents. So again, this is hugely, hugely beneficial if, again, you're doing that a manual sending compilation today of AR invoices. Okay, let's transition now into talking about what things look like, through the lens of the accounting manager. So I'd love for everyone to weigh in here and get a real sense for everyone on the screen if this is something that you can relate to, or if you have different concerns. I'd like to know that as well. So for the accounting manager, we think about, visibility and control of the transaction, right? Managing to the exception, right? Really making sure that the team members, that their workload is equally balanced, right? And also improved accuracy. Improved accuracy is critical because if data is entered incorrectly, right, then it takes a lot of time in order to do adjusting entries. So if we can capture data correctly up front, right, and then repurpose it, it's going to minimize any errors. So I'm going to pass this back a little bit to Whitney and Gabby. And so everyone on the line, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Anyone can relate to these particular issues, or which one seems to be the most prevalent out there? We'll see if anyone has any. I'm trying to think if there are other kinds of concerns on the accounting manager side. They also have that more strategic kind of element to their job, which is really looking at strategic initiatives of the company, right? Growing without adding headcount. That's also really critical. So Gabby, do we have any kind of trend analysis out there?
Not for this question. What do you want to share what we've heard in the past?
Oh, sure, absolutely. And it's the top one, so visibility and control, right? Because visibility, if you have a paper-based process, then each time a paper is being passed around, you have no idea, no visibility to that liability. So having an electronic workflow is critical because you now have 100% visibility and control of the transaction. Also, the last one, improved accuracy, and we talked a little bit about that, and that's all about making sure that the data is entered correctly the first time and then minimizing any rekeying. All right, let's see how it works. So how are we going to help with better visibility? One of the nice elements of the software is that you have a complete audit trail of who's done what with the document. So what you're seeing here is on the left-hand side, you're seeing a little snippet of a screenshot of what the audit trail looks like. And on the right-hand side, you're able to decide, which of these elements do you want to audit? So you get to kind of pick and choose, what's going to be audited about the documents that you have. So that's really huge because it's got that, again, that cradle-to-grave life cycle of what's gone on. Another element of visibility is that there is functionality in the software called the Workflow Supervisor. This gives the accounting manager and other staff, as you deem appropriate, complete visibility of where that invoice is in the approval process. So you'll notice, in this case, I'm looking at all workflows. So let's pop over to Workflow. These are all toggleable fields as well. And now I can see what is in accounts payable, right? What is the status? You see that on the right-hand side. In this case, it's showing me that I have documents in accounts payable with the HR director and with IT, right? And then on the far right-hand side here, you can actually, in order to keep up with transactional obligations, you can move a document out of someone's workflow and put it in someone else's workflow again to keep up with that transactional requirement. So here in the accounting world, a paper-based process has a lot of hidden inefficiencies. And those inefficiencies actually have financial implications. So you could really start anywhere in the cycle, right? But generally you're receiving a document, right? You're having to put that document through some kind of process, right? Routing it manually from one employee to another. You may be filing it, waiting for other supporting documentation. You may be doing that transaction. So it's kind of a cyclical loop, and you have no visibility or control of where that is in the overall cycle. In the paperless world, right, you're able to electronically capture that invoice, which immediately makes it visible from the moment it hits the organization. You can route it automatically through an approval cycle, again, raising visibility and control of that entire transaction. And you're able to import it into the ERP, saving on data entry. And lastly, you're able to provide search and retrieval right from the desktop, so that really kind of gives you a nice closed loop circle and a lot of financial efficiency. All right, let's take a look at the document management through the lens of all the CFOs. Right, so here, and you're welcome to start your chatting if you like on which one of these you can most relate to. But in the CFO world, it's more about strategy, right? Decreasing costs, having productivity gains, lower DSOs, simplified auditing. So Judy, this one's speaking up your alley, right? How do we simplify auditing? So how can we really help cut costs, right? Cut costs and improve productivity. I have a ROI worksheet that I'd be happy to share with you. This might actually be something that we utilize in that 1-hour free business analysis and really talk about, the hidden costs of doing business manually. And these are the different areas where you find those costs. So if you're really looking at what your paper costs are, if you're able to go paperless, then you can cut paper, you can cut all the copying that's going on, and there's labor and actual costs related to storing documents in an offsite storage as well. So that's really, really huge, right? Offsite storage, not only do you have the storage fee, but you have a retrieval fee and a putting those boxes back fee. So that can be another area of ROI savings. Down more here in the left-hand side blue block, it's growing without adding headcount. So as a company, if you're looking at what percentage of growth will you need to add headcount, by applying technology, you no longer have to actually physically hire that, additional people to keep up with the transactional workload. So that can be really important. And I was just talking with a customer, and they were reporting back that not only had they eliminated 35 filing cabinets from their accounting floor, but they are also able to repurpose an employee out of what they were doing with filing into tasks that were more strategic. So that was really, really important. And then they also didn't have to hire someone to replace for that filing. So here again, we're going to have a combination of both soft and hard dollar savings. All right, let's take a closer look at audit and how we can help from audit. From an audit, right, if we really think about it's time for the audit, what do we need to do, right? You're going to need to prepare for the audit, support the auditors while they're on site, and then do the cleanup effort. I had one little story of a company that they still had, I felt so bad for them, still had boxes in their office 6 months after the audit had taken place, and they still hadn't refiled those documents. So things were rapidly kind of getting out of control. But the goal here is that you have some choices available to you. Remember in the beginning we talked about search and retrieval of documents, and this is the user interface, right? You can actually do a couple different things on the audit side. You can decide to just simply, the audit requests a document, you as an individual can search for the document and email it to them. That's one option. We have a customer down in Carlsbad. They actually were able to reduce their audit bill, but I think it was about 25% and move to a remote audit, because what they're doing is they're actually downloading the documents that the auditors have requested and sending them to them. And then when they send them, you can actually download them to a thumb drive or whatnot, and then that will actually go out to the auditor with this mini search engine, right? But it's all just the documents that have been requested. You're not actually exposing your entire document library to them. But that can be very, very helpful. All right. So let's now talk a little bit more about how to help facilitate the entire employee base. And what I want to bring you through next is kind of taking these concepts and just expanding them a little bit to get some of those creative juices flowing a little bit. So we have the ability to utilize all of this functionality in a bit of a creative way. And what I want to show you is I want to kind of take a look at things through an example of a report, expense report submission, and then I bet you that will act as a really nice catalyst for you to start thinking about how you might want to use the software in a very creative way. So let's take a look at this. Let's say that right now today in your organization, employees are incurring expenses. They are filling their wallets up with paper-based receipts, and they're taping those to a page, and they're filling out Excel, and they're compiling everything together, and they're getting their manager's approval, and they're sending it off to AP for payment, right? It is laborious. It is time-consuming, and there's a high probability that receipts will be lost, and it makes it a little bit more challenging for everyone. So the solution here is to say, okay, let's take a step back, and rather than having you be worried about paper receipts, let's have you take a picture of that actual receipt. So this is what this looks like. This is using our mobile application. It's using the workflow tool for approvals. It's also using our smart form toolkit for the actual expense report piece of it. But let's take a look at what it might look like. I am able to capture pictures of my receipts. In this case, I'm capturing my airline fee and probably my hotel fees and any other entertainment receipts that I might have. Right, I am going to still give meaning to those documents, right? So I want to know, my name. I want to know the company name that I actually was entertaining. I might want to know the details of the receipt, right? And then we're going to take that information from the phone, right, and upload it in essence into DocLink. So we have the ability of doing that. We're taking all of these receipts now, and now I only want to have typed the data once as I was doing the receipt. Now I'm going to repurpose that data, and I'm going to push this data into a physical expense report. Right, so here's an example of an expense report. It's important to know that this is fully configurable, right? So this is a tool that you can actually repurpose for other kinds of things as well. This is the data capture piece. It will actually create the expense report, and then we're going to use the power of workflow for the approval and the power of the integration to then move this into AP so your employee can be paid. All right, so that's the big concept. There's always tons of variations. So that's where that 1 hour business process review will come into play, is let's talk about how you're doing it, because I bet you there's a way that we can help streamline that process as well. All right, so we're getting close to the home stretch. Let's take a look at things through the lens of the accounting, or excuse me, the IT director, right? And kind of what's important from the IT director's side of things. We love it when IT is involved in helping their companies go paperless, because there are things that are naturally concerning to them. We want to make sure that things are, built on the latest and greatest, that there's separately, that they're faced with is a disaster recovery plan. They want to make sure that they can support the application very easily, that they can build out workflows, on their own, that there's a strong security engine, so that not everyone gets access to everyone, but you can pick and choose, right? So let's talk about how you can assign documents to another coworker, because that makes it really simple, and IT doesn't have to be involved. So this kind of helps facilitate that easy to support idea. So here's the workflow delegation window, and it's really quite simple here. It's really just telling you, what workflows do I have access to? Right, we see this one has workflows, there's HR, and there's some various statuses in that particular workflow. And I'm going to delegate this out to Jerry, and I'm going to select the different dates that I want him to be responsible, because I'm going on vacation. Right, so that's very, very simple for the end user to set up. And there are rules, of course, related to, who can you assign your workflow to. So that's really, really nice. Security is critical. I get asked this nearly every single time, just to make sure that everyone has the right access to, number one, is the right company if you're a multi-company environment. And then depending on what department they are in, that may also dictate what documents they have access to. And then even further yet, you can define document types that they have access to. You can exclude some document types, you can include them, and you can even do subsets of documents. So maybe you only want approving managers to look at documents that they have physically approved. So there's a lot of different ways that you can really structure the security to give them just the right access. All right. We have sure covered a lot of information in a short period of time. So I hope that that was easy to absorb. This is really just a restating, if you will, of all the different kinds of things that we have talked about today. We talked about the flexibility of capturing documents, right, and many, many different kinds of ways that you can capture documents into the system, whether they're internally generated or externally generated. We also talked about how to access documents in all the different kinds of ways. So here we have looking at documents through DocLink, through your actual ERP, right, your financial accounting application, through a mobile device, or through a web interface. A lot of different possibilities there. And we talked about, well, once you get a document in, if it's not something you just want to store in the library, but you want to actually physically process it, we talked about putting documents through an approval process, which we called workflow. We talked about repurposing data into your ERP, which is the integration. And we just now finished talking about that SmartForm toolkit. In this case, we used an expense report, but there are tons and tons of other different ways. There are HR documents, forms that you can set up. There are credit card reconciliation smart forms that can be set up. New vendor setup requests lots of different possibilities here. And then, of course, we also talked a little bit about the rules-based validation. And we also talked about sending documents outside of the organization. And I used the idea of AR invoices and supporting documents to kind of illuminate, what that might look like. So here is our offer to you. If any of these concepts have kind of resonated with you, and you're all, yes, we do that, and darn, yes, we need to kind of facilitate that process. What I'd like to do is offer you it's free, right? So it's a 1-hour business process review. It would be conducted by myself and your FMT representative, and we can just talk about where are your paper-based pains today, right? What does that look like? We can also talk a little bit about the financial implication if that's an area of concern. And then we can really talk about, how DocLink can help you streamline the processes that you're most concerned with. And then collectively as a group, we can determine, is that a fit for DocLink? Do you actually need another kind of tool to help you? But that'll really put you in a good spot to take the next step, which might be, a product demonstration. It might be a further conversation. So if this is something that you would like to sign up for, I would ask that you type your email address into the chat to Gabby and Whitney, and then we can actually follow up with you. But we'll also be reaching out to everyone as well and making sure that everyone's aware of this particular offer if they want to take advantage of it. So there again, just chat your email address, and we'll make sure we get back in touch with you quickly for that. All right, 2 last slides. We always want to make sure that we can connect with everyone socially. I happen to be a big fan of the tweets that we send out. Some of them are actually quite funny. Other are just strictly informative. We also have a customer conference coming up next week. It is the first conference that we are hosting for all of our customers, but we'd sure love to see you there. So let us know if that's something of interest. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with my contact information. I would love a chance again to work with you and really, really help you just knock it out of the park in terms of what is your paperless strategy and where do you want to take your organization and how can we help you facilitate that. So with that, I think that we are set with the material that we wanted to cover today. Gabby and Whitney, are there any outstanding questions? Or if anyone has a question at this point in time, I'd be more than happy to entertain it. Thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, we do have a question, not about the solution, but just asking if the webinar can be watched again with other employees. This person sees it's being recorded and would be interested in viewing it again. And yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Love it.
Just to confirm, we are recording it. We will be sending it out to all of the attendees so that they can share it, and then we'll also have it up on our website as well.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right. Well, then I hope everyone has a fantastic day. I sure hope that we'll be speaking again for those business process reviews. And just let us know if you have any questions or any ideas that you think would be helpful, again, to help your business. And we'll close for today. So